Hi, everyone. Welcome to our market update. David's out in the field right now, taking care of some family life. So hopefully, he'll be nice and good throughout this whole 10-minute conversation. But David, how are rates looking right now?
Oh my gosh. So, for those of you who've been watching us for the whole time, you will notice we spoke extensively about how rates would be lower before the Fed cut interest rates. And then we predicted the Fed would cut rates when it did. And since the Fed has cut interest rates, as you can see, interest rates have done nothing but go up. And that is because the market does not like what it's hearing and it does not like the outlook. It doesn't feel secure about the overall situation, and therefore rates have done nothing that's gone up. If you look at the chart Vinny has right there, if you look at everything, it's at least 25 basis points up because prior to the Fed, I was locking everybody in on 30-year fixed at 5.99%, 5.875% for an APR added 0.125 to all that. But then the FHA, the VA, that was all down at 5.75 and 5.625. Now you're much higher. And you're going to expect a lot of volatility to continue in the market. And I do predict the Fed's going to cut rates again near the end of October. And the problem is the Fed said it's not going to continue buying mortgage-backed securities. When the Fed does not buy mortgage-backed securities, you don't have as much liquidity in the market, which means investors get leery, which means rates get higher. So if you really want to see the market shift, unfortunately, nobody wants to hear this, but you want unemployment to go up and you want inflation to go up and you want the Fed to come out and say, hey, we're going to start our mortgage backed buying securities process again. And if you start hearing quantitative easing, those words by itself, that means you're probably going to get a better market because going into fall, I think we really needed rates to adjust downwards. And as of right now, it looks like you may continue this upward trend for a little bit longer. And that's not what anyone wants to hear.
So you kind of see, I mean, if you're looking at what I'm putting out there this year, right? Let's say January 1st, the rates are still lower than they've been for the most part of this year, right? Last year, different story, but the rates have trickled up. And like David said, you have to basically have a lender that is keeping their thumb on the pulse, right? Know what's going on, how the market's going to perceive things. So understand that. And then also, too, you don't lock in a rate until you actually get under contract, right? So if you're waiting for that right time to say, hey, you know what? I'm waiting for rates to get to mid fives or whatever it is. Reality is if they get there and you see that little jump, they were basically there for only about a week, and not even the mid fives or high fives, right? They're only there for
Yeah.
about a week, right? So if you would say, okay, now I'm ready to go, and then you start looking again, it's probably going to take a couple of days to actually find that property, get under contract, and go forward with it, and then your rate's not even locked in, right? So
And you
something to
also have
really
to
think about.
remember, you got to remember what almost 90% of lenders do when you call them. They quote you something that you can't get at that time, anyways.
Hmm.
And they do that just to keep you in a bad position and go, oh, I should always talk to Willy Wonka. No, be very careful. Like,
Hmm.
they're going to tell you what you want to hear when in reality, you want people to tell you, hey, listen, I'm quoting you as an example, 6.25 today as a worst case scenario. That way, if you get in a contract and it's much better. Like if you look at that deal me and you just closed, Vinny, where that gentleman had basically like a 680 FICO and
Hmm.
he got 5.95 and or it was 5.94 actually. It was an odd one. And he locked in and got all that. But prior to that, when he was shopping, we were at 6.5.
Hmm.
So you want people to take a worst case scenario when they're quoting rates so that you're happy with the payment. And it's not a shocker to you because nobody wants to think that you're shopping and you're like, I'm going to get 5.75. And then you get in a contract and the lender's like, oh, it's actually 6.5.
Well,
So
remember too,
be
there's
careful.
like 2-1 buy downs we've talked about. You can buy down the rate, you can ask for credits to actually make it lower. A lot of factors that play into the bottom line. Maybe you play less at closing, right? Things to think about. And then people go, okay, well, how's the market? The market has to be like drop off the face of the cliff pricing. Well, this is the detached values, the median price. So August, so last month, I know we're in September, but August, we were at $1,074,000. Now, mind you, we were at $1,009,000. We were at $1,099,000 in July, right? So the values aren't dropping off the cliff, which people talk about. Now you talk about basically the attached market. We're starting to see a little bit of an uptick in the attached market, right? So yes, it dropped from where it was in July, but we're starting to see that uptick. So if you're waiting for rates to drop and you're waiting for values to drop, you're not gonna. I mean,
It's not gonna drop like it's hot. It's not dropping like it's hot. Just to take it from a song.
and then you've seen the clicker going below right here. If you look at the clicker, right, we have active properties. We have active properties a little under 5,700 properties. Now, if you've been watching us, inventory at its peak was close to about 6,800 properties, right? And then the holidays, we start seeing basically inventory start trickle downwards. So people going, oh, well, the values have shot down. I heard there's more inventory in the market, things like that. There's a lot of misinformation out there, right? A lot of misinformation out there. Now, the one thing that is true, if you've probably heard it, is transaction levels are at historic lows for the last 3 months, right?
100%.
So that is one thing. There's less transactions happening, but the market's not seeing as a whole the values, right? So, but there's one-off situations, right? There's situations properties take longer to sell, and there's usually a little more flexibility with some sellers. But again, not all sellers, because not all sellers have that fear where they need to sell the property. That's the thing you got to remember. You have to find you have to fall in love with the property, and you got to hope that the seller actually has a fear to sell. Because if not, they can wait it out.
And you better, just to throw in there, it's like when you look at the last transaction we just closed, Vinnie, the seller hadn't done their homework properly and advertised improperly, and you were able to capitalize and get a lot of good stuff for the client. So you also need to pay attention who you're working with, needs to pay attention to details, and needs to know how to capitalize when there are mistakes instead of just letting things pass. Because going into fall and the volume is low, like you said, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities where you may get some bad representation on the seller side, and the buyer side may be able to look at it and be like, hey, we can really get a good deal here. Let's pull it together. So
and remember,
think
guys,
about opportunity.
Something very simple, right? Numbers make you think, right? Emotions make you act, right? So the numbers of whatever rate is going to be, things like that, are going to make you think. Maybe it's a time for me to buy. But the emotion of being homeless, the emotion of falling in love in the property, those things are going to make you actually act, right? So I was talking to a client actually the other day, and they go, well, can't we just go look at properties? I go, you could look at properties, but you're going to fall in love with probably a property that you can't afford, or you can't, it's out of your budget, right? And what's going to happen? You're going to go, let's just figure out a way to make this work. It's better to know your numbers so you don't get emotionally swayed into a property that you find out later is probably going to be tying your budget. Because even though it might fit the debt to income, doesn't mean you can truly afford it.
The best example of that, Vinny, is I looked at cars the other day, and for some reason, this car, I fell in love with it. But the price tag was 135K.
Oh,
and that's not what I want to spend on a car, because I want to be more in the 60K range. But boy, did I love that 135K car. Don't look at houses you can't afford. Make sure your realtor and your lender go over stuff with you and make it clear to you, hey, you can't afford this. Don't even look at that house for 1.5 million when you should be buying at 1.1. Yeah, tread wisely, my friends. The market is slower. Careful who you work with, and watch the advice other people are giving you just to tell you to buy, because that's not a good thing to do.
And if you guys have a particular question about your situation, feel free to give myself or David a call. We work together. We can help you out with the buying side, put a game plan together. If you're looking to sell, again, give me a call. I'd love to help you out. David, what's your number? We'll finish off with that.
858-349-7468, or it's 858-349-PINT, PINT.
Oh, well, that's pretty good. My
you know what I mean?
858-345-7829. Again, 858-345-7829. Bye, everyone.